1000%. But
Off my soapbox there.
The thing that made Brock Purdy Brock Purdy is the number one defense he had to play for 13 weeks prior to playing in a real NFL game. They're still number one. There's only two games that teams have scored over 20. That was the game where everybody was fucking injured, and we played the Falcons in Atlanta on the second game of a back-to-back on the East Coast. And then there's the other game right after that where everybody was still injured except Bosa, except Warner, and except Greenlaw. And we played the Chiefs. And Ward, I think. Mooney Ward was there too.
Yeah, I think he got hurt. I think he went out in that game, though.
Did he go out? I know. Jimmy played the first snap and then broke his hand.
He went out, but yeah, then Ward went out, I think, in like the third quarter or something like that. Second, third quarter was out for the majority of the game.
And they scored a 40-burger on us. Other than that, no one has scored over 20 points. I think we've held teams to under 13 points in the last, 5 weeks. We have
5 out of the
weeks. We have 5 weeks of no 0-point games in the second half. We have a shutout in the middle of that. We might get another shutout coming up. I'm not sure. This might be a shutout this week, unless the offense gives up the scores. I don't know. There's just so many things that are being said about the 49ers. Dante Whitner recently on the 49ers pregame or postgame, I don't remember which one it was, stated that this might be the greatest 49ers defense ever, which is kind of a big deal because he was on one of those great defenses. And then for him to be like, yeah, this is one of the greatest ever is kind of like, that means a lot because if I was on that defense that he was on in 2012, I would never say that. I would never ever say that they were the greatest defense ever because that defense that they were on was fucking scary. However, I understood his points too because the rule changes, everything has changed, and they're still dominating offenses, and it's like I get your point.
It's an offensive friendly league, right? They want points scored, and in a time where they want points scored, we're not allowing points to be scored. So that's where you talk back to the 2000 Ravens, and everyone's like, oh, this team's not as good as these defenses. Well, eras matter. Everyone talks about that. You played in different areas, you play different things. If Montana had the rules that Brady had, all that kind of stuff. We can go down the line and talk about different areas. But the fact of the matter is you got a defense playing at the Ravens caliber defense, yardage allowed, points allowed, all these things allowed. They're minimizing it across the board in a league that's putting up 400 plus yards in passing yards a game. You know what I mean? In a league that allows 600 total offensive yards in a game, you're looking at games consistently every week that are going 30 plus, 40 plus points from both teams. So the
Colts scored 30 in the first half, and then the Vikings scored 30 in the second half.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So when you look at all of the variables, right, you're playing in a league that the refs want offenses to score points. The NFL wants offenses to score points. Every rule favors offensive players. And then you get that, and you take that, and now you're on this type of defense, and you're doing what you're doing, historic numbers, and putting up the stuff that you're putting up. Yeah, sure, we've had some point. Everyone wants to point out the games that we struggled in. But then again, like we said, half the team was hurt, statistically speaking, when we're healthy, because in the first couple of games before we were unhealthy, we were doing the same thing. When we had E-Man and we had Ward, and we were shutting teams down the same way. So it's like, as far as if you look at roster and statistics, we've done this all year. Including those games that we had the issues with, because the games we had the issues with, we weren't fully healthy. But when we had everybody on the field, which again, it's a football, everyone gets hurt, every team's hurt. Mm-hmm. But when you're losing 80% of your starters, that's difference between being hurt and being a whole different defense. You're a whole different personnel out there, completely.
I agree. I said this, I think, when Torres was on the podcast right before we went to Carolina. I told him, I was like, in 3 weeks we play the Chiefs. If we play the Chiefs and our defense is fully healthy, I don't have any fear that they'll score over 20 points. We weren't healthy, and they scored 40 points. There was just no health. Everybody was hurt. Defensive line was hurt. Eric Armstead wasn't playing. Ed Buchanan wasn't playing.
8 out of 11 starters were injured in that game. So, and then, at the end of the day,
I still feel to this day, if E-Man didn't get hurt, I do feel like this defense would be 2000 Ravens scary.
Easy. And even then, I still think we're at that level only because we're hitting at all levels of the defense. That's to me what separates this defense from the 2012 defense. We were the 2012 defense was fun. Like they were exciting to watch. They hit. They smack. I watched highlights the other day and I was getting excited because seeing all the hits and seeing all these people flying around and getting beat up and standing up and they're hurt. they're shaking. You got Willis bending people back and. That was fun to watch. It was probably the most exciting defense. So you look at exciting versus statistically best defense ever. This team, I think, is this defense across the board is talent. They're elite at every position on the field. Even with E-Man out of the game, we're still shutting receivers down with those corners. So that tells you right there, safety level, corner level, DBs, linemen, linebackers, every level across the board. You can't say that we have a weak point at this point in the year, and that's where it separates a good defense versus a great defense is when you're hitting on all levels of the field. So, in my opinion, best defense. 2012 is the most exciting defense. 2012 was probably the most talented defense individually across the board. I would maybe go there.
What about the 94? What about the 94 defense?
Also, I would say that defense was probably the most. I don't know. I guess
the only player that obviously we think about off of that team was Deion Sanders because he was the vocal point of the big. Yeah. He was defensive player of the year that year. And he had 3 interceptions for touchdowns that year. Obviously, that's the player we think of when it first comes to 94, but that defense was. They held people.
I would say they were the most disciplined defense that we probably ever had. Everybody did their job and they did it extremely well. You know what I mean? So
and like Whitner said, they were playing in an era where you can smack a receiver going over the field. You can't do that stuff. You can't hit the quarterback specifically this year. Obviously, look at the game. Last week should have been 30. Actually, I feel like last week should have been a 40-point game. The Bosa pick 6. That was. There was a play where Purdy hit Ayuk on 3rd and 6 right in their hands, and Ayuk dropped it.
Yeah, he dropped it. Ayuk still struggles on the easy catches and catching the balls he couldn't catch him. But
that was another one that was all right, you were gone, bro. There was no one there. And he probably thought he probably knew that. He probably was oh, I'm gone. And dropped
and I seen some of the analysts saying oh yeah, they only put up 20 points against Seattle and Dallas put it. I was like, you do realize we could have scored at the end of the game, right? We took the gentleman. We're gonna kneel and we're gonna end the game. We could have scored easy there. That's 7 points off the board. You got 7 points off the board with that whack ass roughing penalty call. It goes from 20 to 40 points real quick. You know what I mean?
So we scored 23, right?
23 points. So that's 14 off the board. That's at the very least 37. And then if you get that catch, at the very least you get a 3 points out of that. So you're looking at a 40-point game. That it should have been a 40-point game. So
I agree.
They can say what they want to say.
It should have been easily a 30-point game. There should be no we're on the 1 yard line. We kneeled at the 1 yard line 3 times when we end the game.
Yeah, we could have scored.
I wish we didn't do it because I hate the Seahawks and it's a rival game. Fuck them, put it up. And apparently one of the tiebreakers in the NFL now is point differential.
It was points. Yeah, we knew that we locked that up regardless of how the outcome of the rest of the season came out. So I get you start to get questioned, that whole Pete Carroll, you're an asshole type of scenario where running scores up and stuff. So I get it. I was cool with it. Seattle, we hate those guys, and I'll always forever hate Seattle, but they're really not. And I've said it. We're the best in the West, in the NFC West, and it's not even close. It's not even. There's a huge gap. Yeah, there's a huge gap between the rest of the NFC West and the Niners. So at the end of the day, like it's not the rivalry that it once was, and I wasn't as like let's put our foot on their throat. Now if Sherman was still on that team and he was still running his mouth like he did back in the day, like then that'd be different story. Like,
he was on the sideline, but he was like, I don't know, I'm going for both teams because I played on both teams. He is a big 49er guy though. Like,
he's a huge 49er guy, but he understands.
Juice hit him up before the game. Was like, "Are you here for us or are you here for them?" And he was like, "Have you not been listening to my podcast?" And he's like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Man, that's why I talk about the 49ers. You guys are the best team in the league." All right, cool. Which he does say that. I listen to him. He does say that, and he kept saying
with his football IQ though, he understands.
Yeah. And he kept saying this defense is scary. He's like, this defense, and he calls Nick Bosa by his whole damn government name. And he's like, this defense is great. He's the defensive player of the year. But Eric Armstead ain't here yet. When he comes back, it's going to get real bad. And I didn't understand what he meant, but now it's like, oh shit. Like, Nick Bosa has free reign to the quarterback now, and he's always going to get a sack, like a sack a game pretty much. So he has free reign to the quarterback now because he's only getting single team. He gets a chip block every once in a while.
Yeah. You look at the tweet.
I don't know. It's just scary, man.
It's funny because like even Berto in the text message chain, right? He's texting like after the first two drives, and he's like, "This game's about to get out of hand." Like you have that sense of you start to just look at these drives, and you're like, "This game is gonna go completely horribly wrong for that other team. We're not going to do a damn thing, and we're going to move the ball at will. It's going to be bad, and that's how I feel. That's why I said it pisses the opposing teams off because they go into that game feeling that exact same thing. They're just like, this is what we're in store for the rest of the game. Like fuck. I don't know that I want to.
And it's like you see it, and it's like okay, Tua was like. 74% completion percentage before he came to San Francisco, and they made him look terrible. They made him look like the worst quarterback in the NFL. And then
he looked like Mariota.
And Tom Brady hasn't looked great all season, but they made Tom Brady look.
He's still Tom.
Like I could have went out there and did what Tom Brady did. That's what they made it seem like. Like he was terrible. And then the next week it's Geno Smith, who's the second best percentage quarterback in the NFL, and he's just trying to throw the ball into the ground because he's so scared of what's around him. Like
statistically speaking, he's having the best season of any quarterback in the NFL. So you technically playing the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's throwing it into the ground like just to avoid.
He's scared.
Yeah, just to avoid being hit.
There was two times he did it, and there was no one even around him. Like it was just steps.
He threw it into the ground. I'm like,
I'll do this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to run. I'm not gonna try to make anybody miss because I know if I do that, there's 10 other people swarming around me right after that point. So that's why
I don't think the running backs want to catch the ball out of the backfield because then they know Dre Greenlaw's coming and he's a heat-seeking missile.
And they're gonna get dipped into the ground every time they get hit by that guy. So.
And then now we got two players. We got Warner and Hufanga who are good at blitzing, and it's like they're good at disguising what they're doing, and then they blitz. And it's like
and you could throw Ward out there too, dude. That dude's a pretty good blitzer. I've watched him make quarterbacks like he doesn't usually get the sack out of the blitz, but he's forcing quarterbacks to completely. He's forcing the quarterbacks to completely bail out of the backfield, and then that's at that point you're allowing Bosa's and other guys to get there and make those plays. But yeah, I've seen him go back there and untouched, like he just slides right on the tackle. Yeah,
he's like one of the better nickelbacks the last 3 weeks. So it's like I don't even like the defense is scary. I don't know. The only weak link is
our second
on the right side and the other side, but he's holding his own. He's playing
at a high level.
Last year they were attacking Ambry Thomas. Like, everybody was like, we're going to go at this guy. But this year it's like, we can't go at that guy. That guy's still good enough to like get a pick and take it to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think the defense is scary. I do agree with Whitney. I do think it's the best defense of the 49ers eras. The 49ers defenses.
Yes. 2012 was the most fun, most exciting, probably the hardest hitting defense by far. And individually, I think they have a better player on all levels that are probably better than the ones that we have on this defense. You got a middle linebacker, Patrick Willis, is better than Warner. You got Justice Smith, who's better than Eric Armstead. So you have guys on that team for sure individually that are better than the guys, but as a whole defense, like I don't think we've had a defense like this ever in the past. And
the worst part for the league is this whole defense is young, except Gibson and Wolf.
And they're locked in. So
yeah. That's the worst part for this the league. Like this defense is gonna get better because they're gonna get smarter.
They're just gonna get more chemistry and more comfortable, and we'll make those gonna go off and do something, but then they're gonna get another defensive coordinator in there because Shanahan knows how to bring in coaches apparently. So
Vic Fangio is on the
I've seen that. Yeah.
I feel like he's gonna be our next coordinator, which is fine. He's a good coordinator. He was the coordinator of that defense.
Let's go.